Hello, Aisha. Thank you so much for joining. We are so excited to have you on our big day today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Rajeswari?
I'm good. Very, very excited as well. So, what is the day like for you? Have you been
It's
super
going
busy?
great. Yes, it was quite a day, but it was also very rewarding at the end.
I'm 100% sure. So I was very, very impressed, and I was like, going over your profile. It's so nice to see women get into this kind of areas which are very, very sensitive in a way and taboo topics. People don't like talking about it. People don't like acknowledging the problems. And the best part about you is whatever you're doing, you are actually doing it very innovatively. You are combining the most happening thing for anybody's life, cinema, the most big thing, into your job. Tell us, how did you get started with that idea?
Okay, so thank you for your words to begin with. And the reason I started with combining cinema and psychology is because basically I'm a cinema fanatic. I love watching cinemas from my childhood. But then I also realized that a lot of things in cinema is a reflection of reality, and it also shows an example of how we can handle things even without us having to go through all those things in person. So that is
Mm,
one of the things that I love. And also I realized that that is one common thread that's connecting everybody. Like
mm,
if a group of people come together, they're talking, it's always going to be cinema at one point or other. So I feel that that is one thread that's one of the most powerful mass media,
mm,
right? So, and with
mm,
great power comes great responsibility. So I
mhm,
thought that if that kind of power can be channelized in a good way, that would create a lot of good rippling effect in reality. So that's what
mm.
brought me here.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure, and I'm glad that I'm so happy and glad that you were able to think in a different way. So we name Shrotalandarki. Aisha is basically, she's a psychologist, as you already figured it out. Aisha is a psychologist and she blends cinema and psychology flawlessly. మీరు తన ప్రొఫైల్ చూస్తే the way she talks, her videos and all, it's so impressive and you want to listen to her, whatever she's trying to say. She's very passionate, she's driven, and she's here to help you understand the fascinating world of human. And I'm so excited to be talking to her. Looks like, Aisha, your journey began at a very young age, like when you were 15, when you have discovered the love for psychology. Tell us
Yes,
about
I did.
tell us about that. How did that happen? Like that at young age, how? So you were still in high school.
Yes, I actually studied psychology in my high school from my 11th grade.
Mm,
So
mm,
that was in CBSE. So
mm,
initially, I was not very clear about what I wanted in life because my parents already had everything sorted out for me. But then at 15 years, I don't know. It's just that I figured out that I liked reading psychology. I used to read a lot of books, and then I stumbled on a few psychology books. And my best friend at that time, even now, she's my best friend. She was studying psychology, and I had the chance to read some of her books, and then I realized, oh
mm,
wow, this is something that really really excites me. So that is when I started studying psychology, and I think I was very clear from back from my school days, this is my dream job. This is the kind of thing that I used to write in my slam books, like what is your future job? Psychologist. I used to write like psychology, psychologist Aisha, and my school labels and all like that. So I
mm,
really wanted to do this, like I'm born for this. So I felt like always known this from that time. But if you ask me exactly what made me do this, I'm not very sure. It just occurred to me.
mm. Wow, very impressive. So, what is it that one thing that you feel very happy about your profession today and the way that you're dealing with this particular topic, and how does your therapy sessions, whatever the way they are progressing, what is that one thing that makes you feel very happy today when you look back?
Okay, so To be honest, this job on a daily basis can be very exhausting because you're always listening to people, you're always kind of
Mm,
taking notes, you're uh, linking things inside your head, trying to make sense of it. So that's a lot of mental work. And
mm,
as therapy progresses, it's not like in one session things won't change. But I think the most rewarding part is what happens when you see that the person that you're introduced to and the person they are becoming, you see that like life unfolds in front of your eyes. You know
mm,
what is happening, and when they tell something like, how life changed after
mm,
therapy and how they're viewing things different, especially when they are handling a situation differently from how they used to do before, it feels like, it feels like a personal win. Like, that's my girl, come on, I taught you this,
mm.
that feels very good. So I think the kind of change that people manifest after they learn all those coping skills, that is one thing that I love seeing. Like, I can never get bored of it. That's the
Nice,
most rewarding thing.
nice. Um, so we have, like I said, we were, following your profile. We've been watching your videos and all. There's one thing, everything actually was very interesting, but one thing I was wondering if you could talk about it today. Maybe many people will connect with it. You were focusing on love stories, you were focusing on relationships, like, generally. So, there was one interesting post which was on 7 stages of a family life cycle. Can you talk
Mhm.
about that in a bit elaborate?
Okay. So basically, this is about preparing yourself to get married, because marriage is not a temporary thing. It's not a one time thing. It's something, it's like agreeing to marry somebody for all their versions, all their future versions. So
Mm,
the family cycle is just a simplification, because I use the word simplification because it's a lot more complex and cannot be put into just, a theory. But
mm,
it is about 7 stages that a person would go through in the life, in a family life, and how, what are the kind of possible conflicts that could occur for each stage and how they can handle it differently. So that is
mm,
what is about this family cycle. So initially, the stage one would be about singlehood, where they live this bachelor life. They're not answerable to anybody. Their responsibilities is all about, like, if they do something wrong, nobody's going to face the consequence for it. It's on them and everything is fine. And then there's this courtship, the most glamorized stage, the one that we see in films. It's courtship, it's love, it's pursuing, and all of
when
those
the
things
duets
where,
happen, right?
yeah, sorry.
When the duets happen.
Yes, the duets happen and they go to some fancy location and dance.
Yeah.
All that will happen, where literally, even without Google Maps, every restaurant, every cafe, everything in the city where you're going around, like the
Yeah.
fun part. And then marriage happens. Marriage in itself would create a lot of differences, because now the families are involved. Earlier they were not. Now the families are involved, and the way the upbringing comes into picture, because they'll then realize how the way they look at things and their family look at things might be completely different. And you will see how, whether they're standing up for their family members or not, whether they're standing up for you in front of family members or not, all those
Mm,
things. And then the child enters the picture, and now you have even more responsibility, because you'll have to, make sure that you handle your own emotions, and also make sure that you're raising a healthy child without displacing your own fears or anger or anything on the kid. And then comes the stage where this kid grows up to be an adolescent. That is when it's going to be very challenging, because now the child is not obedient anymore. It has its own brain. It wants to make choices, make decision on its own, and it's going to be a little contradicting from what the parents might be thinking is right for them. So there's going to be a little bit of challenge dealing with teenagers. And then there's this stage where they'll have to launch the kids outside, and this kid is going to go out to the real world, meet real people, fall in love, get married, and all of this is when you basically become supporting characters in your own film. You just take the back seat and you'll watch your kids do all the things. And then the last stage is this emptiness stage. This stage is not usually shown in films, but there are certain films that show this stage. Like, it is like just the grandparents living together. Like in OK Kanmani also, there's this old couple, right? Just those two people living together. That is this emptiness stage. Whether they have kids, whether they might be married, or they did not have kids anyway. But there's like nobody there. They are getting old, and they're taking care of each other. That is an emptiness stage, and all this stage comes with its own ways of giving happiness and pain. And navigating through life is, I think, but all of these stages is what makes life beautiful. We'll want to go through all of this, and only very lucky people actually get this opportunity to actually go through and live all these stages of life, isn't it?
Absolutely, you're so right. So let's get to the a little bit more fun part of your profession. We have seen that you take characters from the films and then you do kind of a dissection about their personality traits and then what is the issue with that particular personality, and then you kind of give a summary about it. So one of our
That's
favorites also is the Neelambari character from Chandramukhi, and I know you're a Tamilian, right? Basically, but the same movie we all know and the character we
in
all know.
yes, in Telugu as well.
Yeah, so the Neelambari or the Chandramukhi, either of these, can you talk about them?
Yes, sure. So actually, learning about movie characters, dissecting them, that's also my favorite hobby. So I'd love to talk about it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So talking about Neelambari from Padayappa and Chandramukhi from Chandramukhi, both these characters are very distinct and they're very strong characters, because right now, if I just say their name, you can just see their face in your head.
Yeah,
It's very,
correct.
it's very prominent. It left an impression for such a long
Hmm.
time, for decades, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very big thing. So one of my favorite characters is Neelambari, because Neelambari is actually a very strong person. Like
And this
there's
is Ramya Krishna's character
Ramya
from,
Krishna's
in
character,
in
yes.
Telugu, I think it was Narasimha, that's the movie.
Oh, Narasimha, yes.
Mm.
I'm not very sure. I didn't watch it in
Yeah,
Telugu,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that Ramya Krishna's
yeah.
character.
Yeah.
So I did a SWOT analysis for her. I was figuring
I
out
saw
she has.
that.
So so her strengths and weaknesses, I was just trying to figure that out. She's
Mm.
actually a very strong personality, but
Mm.
the way maybe she was brought up, she was not able to handle rejection. And she always saw that everybody around her was always looking up to her. They always think that she's a trophy that nobody can get. And when she saw this Rajnikant's character just throwing her away, not wanting her, it made her feel very little. It was like, only if this person wants me, I will feel that power back.
Correct.
I feel like a loser. So that she wasn't able to handle the rejection, and the way she faced it was very, not in a healthy way. She decided to
Mm.
lock herself in the room, watch the same marriage cassette again and again, which was a very unhealthy coping mechanism. And she also displayed characteristics of a narcissist, because that was very evident in the song that she dances
Mm.
to, the Bharatanatyam song. I'm not sure what it's called in Telugu though,
Mm. Yeah,
but
yeah. Yeah. Mm.
the one in which she dances, the entire lyrics is suggestive of how she views this man as somebody who should just worship her. She
Mm.
wanted kind of a devotee more than a lover, some equal part. So
Mm.
Neelambari actually had a strong character, but she did also have a very unhealthy coping mechanism and narcissistic traits. So I also wrote about how therapy could have actually helped her have a much more healthier and, in fact, a very empowering life, to be honest.
Yeah,
And
it's very
uh,
interesting how you were like not just analyzing a particular character from the movie, not just like, doing a little project work on that character. You're saying, okay, this is the trait of the character, and this is the SWOT analysis. So you identify their strength, their weakness, the opportunity for them to
yeah,
improve, and what's the threat and all that. And then you also say that if they had a therapy, how they would have shaped. It's interesting.
it's a what if for Tamil movies and Telugu
Yeah.
movies. And even Chandramukhi's character is particularly intriguing for me because as a kid I used to be very scared of watching that film Chandramukhi. I really thought it was a horror film. But only after I grew up I realized that she in fact has a disorder, and
Mm,
her connection with the stories that she read as a kid, that
mm.
all that shows that she has actually internalized what Chandramukhi was feeling. The character, the Jyotika's character in Telugu, somebody else played it, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's Jyotika only.
Jyotika only. Okay.
Mm,
So in Malayalam, I think it's somebody else. So it was a
yeah,
pan Indian film, right? So
yeah,
I think it was remade many
Jyotika,
times.
we all connect with Jyotika also for
Jyotika.
Chandramukhi.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we
in,
went through your profile. I saw that, and one more thing I wanted to ask you.
Mhm.
This may be a little, funny, but you know, in the movies that we are seeing today, you're able to pick so
Mhm.
many characters because, for the sake of the movie, for the sake of storytelling, for the sake of, the mass appeal, most of these characters are projected as larger than life, and a little exaggeration is poured into the
Yes.
character and the
Mhm.
dramatization and all that stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, do you ever think that, did it ever occur to you that if not this side of the world, how would you have connected your job and people together to make them understand the importance of realizing one's mental condition?
Okay. You're asking me like without using cinema as an instrument, what else I would have used
Yep, yep.
to connect to people? Okay,
Hmm.
that's a very good question because that is like questioning my entire career, to be honest, because this has like cinema has been a very strong hold for me, which has made it much more easier for me to connect with people. But if it was not through cinema, I would have definitely try to reach people through social media for sure. But if it's not through cinema, I should have come up with. I love giving analogies actually. I always give a lot of stories. I say stories and make people understand. I think I would have figured some way to make it more interesting for them because I actually I don't like listening to very boring talks, to be honest. I don't like doing that. So when people are listening to me, I would rather make it very interesting for them. I would have maybe gone into some kind of some form of storytelling to get this point forth instead of doing theory wise or giving some numbers. I think I'd be more happy with giving examples and stories and all those
Mm.
interesting stuff that would still make people want to listen to.
I'm 100% sure. Um, so in cinemas, if they are representing any character, like even Chandramukhi character or Neelambari's character, we take
Mm.
in real life, that kind of a personality and that kind of a disorder, if someone has, right,
Mm.
are they really showing in cinema, are they really showing the true character, you think, or like I was talking earlier, we all feel
Mm.
like there's a little bit of exaggeration for the mass appeal?
Mm.
Do you think?
So you're
Yeah.
questioning the accuracy of the presentation
Yes.
on mental health.
Yes.
So definitely, I would say that it has improved over the years. But the
Mm,
problem with mental health representation is not only with the patient in
mm.
itself, but also because also of the representation of the psychiatrist and psychologist on screen itself is kind of
Yeah.
flawed, to be
Yeah.
honest.
That was my next question.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the way they portray people with disorders is not just exaggerated, but it's like it is very different. Like a normal person cannot connect to. They think as if they are a fictional character, that it's very different for somebody to have that. And it's obviously exaggerated for commercial reasons because the whole movie is going to probably be on the whole plot is weighed on that disorder. So it has to be exaggerated. Like in Onion, there is like his
Mm,
entire hairstyle changes and he has like makeup on his face and so many things, but that's not how actually this disorder works.
mm,
It's called multiple personality disorders back in those times. Now it's dissociative identity disorders. These disorders are actually true and people actually suffer from it. You can study, like there are case studies about having 24 different personalities and all of those things, which is completely, it's very exciting and it's also it is concerning to even think about people having to live with such conditions. But
Mm,
the representation, though it's exaggerated, some recent movies like I'm not sure if this movie was made in Telugu, but I think it is available on Netflix. There's this movie called Irugapatru. Uh, in such movies, there is a very good representation of mental health professionals. And for
mm,
mental health representation itself, I would say if people start to have some form of expert on their team, at least have them as a consultant, I think it will change. But over the years, I think it has been better, but it's not definitely not accurate. Accuracy
mm,
is still not achieved, and I don't know if it's going to be 100% possible to achieve that kind of accuracy. But as long as it's not giving people some wrong ideas about disorders or therapy or professionals, I think we're good to go.
right. Thank you for honestly sharing the thoughts. So one last thing before we conclude this session,
Mhm.
I want to ask you. See, so far we have been talking about these extreme personalities, very strong personalities who have some mental health issues, and how that
Mhm.
needs to be addressed and how that needs a therapeutic consultation. But also there are some minor, I don't know if we can say minor, that word may not be appropriate, but immediately I can't think of another better word, so for the lack of that, I'll be using it for
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis, right? Simple issues that people will be facing in life without even realizing that they are getting succumbed into a certain pattern of lifestyle, without realizing that they are actually going through some problem and they need some help, and it's okay to acknowledge, and it's actually you're supposed to acknowledge the problem and then act upon it. Those kind of simple issues they may be looking like at the peripheral level. But what do you have to say to such people to come forward and acknowledge the problem and reach out for help, seek help, and it's totally and 100% okay to do so?
Okay, that's a very useful question, to be honest. So, one message I would like to give people is that if you're going through something and you don't know whether this thing is big enough to talk to a therapist or not, you can have a few pointers that you can keep in mind. One of it is distress. If this particular thing that you're facing is causing you a lot of distress, you're not able to, tolerate it, you're in a persistent state of sadness or anxiety, which is
Mm,
going on for a while, like, because usually it's normal to have emotions, but if those emotions are consistently there for a very long time, or for weeks or days, then you can definitely take therapy. Similarly, if it's causing you dysfunction, let's say something is making you, making it hard for you to do the daily tasks, like, I'm not even able to shower, I'm not able to concentrate at my work, I'm missing a lot of things, I'm putting myself in trouble a lot of times. If
mm,
you feel that, you're doing things that you're not, consciously doing, and you're not able to do daily things like even sleeping and appetite changes, you're not able to sleep well, or you're sleeping too much, or you're not eating well, you're not having an appetite. In such cases, you can definitely go and talk to a therapist. Similarly, if you ever feel like uh, you are posing a threat to yourself or to others, if you feel like you have to do something to harm yourself, or if you're having some extreme, like, let's say you are having anger, but you feel so extreme that you want to break something, if you want to pull your hair, if you want to, do something that is deviant from how it usually is, and then that is a very big indicator that you will need some help. But that being said, that doesn't mean you will need medication or anything. You just have to talk to a professional, and they will tell you what to do about it. But it's definitely changeable, you don't have to worry about it.
right. Thank you so much, Aisha. This is so nice talking to you, and I wish you do more and more of such things, and more power to you. Um, it's very interesting, really very interesting, and I'm like we are enjoying watching your posts and videos as well. And if people want to reach her, she is calling herself as Wonder Human on Insta, and that's exactly what she is, because she's very innovative. She's a pioneer in this field, and she is today's representation of how a psychologist should be and how they can be helpful to you on a day-to-day basis. Any concluding words before we end this conversation, Aisha?
I just want to tell you thank you for having me here. And I'm so glad that I was able to reach the audience in USA. It was really nice talking and connecting with you as well. So it is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was Aisha, not just a psychologist, but also a social media star. Definitely, there's so much to learn from her profile. Reach her up, Wonder Human on Insta. Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you. Have a good day.